Toronto's Union Station is a massive hub, but the number of trains traveling to the station is going to more than double in the next 10 years, and so the station has been under construction for over a decade to be rebuilt from the ground up with modern passenger amenities and larger, more open and accessible spaces. But there are some nooks and crannies that haven't been upgraded, and one of the most important elements of any train station, the platforms, have not seen a true reimagining in a long time. But a huge new project is happening that is going to form the final phase of the complete reimagining of Union, at least for now. So come along and check it out. USEP, or the Union Station Enhancement Project, is probably one of the biggest transit projects you have never heard about. The south part of Union Station, which is at the center of the Union Station rail corridor, previously played host to a number of tracks and platforms, all numbered in the mid-20s. But these felt distinct from the rest of the station, and you needed to use a number of small hallways jutting off of the southern arcade of the station to get to them. The platforms weren't the worst, and they even had some escalators, a rarity at the station. But the access was narrow, not to mention the platforms themselves, and their isolated nature away from the rest of the platforms that clearly holds a lot of opportunity. Union Station has a lot of narrow platforms due to historical reasons, around the services operated and the transportation of mail, and the USEP is the first phase of fixing this, starting with the southernmost tracks and platforms, of course. The main star of the USEP is probably the new South Concourse, and to be clear, this is a truly new space. Prior to this project, the spot where the new South Concourse was going to go was filled with some narrow walkways between the station and Scotiabank Arena, various tunnels, and a lot of soil, all set to be replaced by a big modern concourse. After USEP is done, future phases can rebuild Union's other platforms to make them wider and higher capacity, hopefully eventually allowing dedicated platforms for individual services. So instead of waiting at the station concourse, you can just go straight to your platform. The newly excavated concourse will form a giant long open space where passengers can easily walk all the way from York to Bay Street. By the way, if you want a refresher on Union's layout, check out the linked video in the top right corner. And this space isn't just going to be long, but it'll also be really wide, roughly 30 meters at its widest, which means the South Concourse's footprint will be similar, if not larger, than a single level of the Bay or York concourses. Also unique is the model by which this is being constructed, which is the Alliance model, where Metrolinx and its engineering and construction partners work together rather flexibly toward the end goal of this new concourse. Alright, let's get to the tour. We started out with the connecting tunnel between Scotiabank Arena and Union Station, which will actually be replaced on both sides with a wide opening into the new concourse. This can give you a bit of a sense for the width of the future part of the station, and how much more open it will make everything feel. From here we headed up to ground level and went along the several 100-meter long site. Working here is not easy. There is a live track with GO trains running on it regularly, directly next to the site on the north, a wall of high-rises and Scotiabank Arena to the south, and the CIBC Square elevated park to the east. Because of the trains, a hard barrier and fence had to be created to keep the site safe and separated. From there, crews then had to demolish the old platforms and excavate around the site, including entirely removing the structures that formed the old stairways and tunnels, to be replaced by the much larger and more open concourse. Once excavation is complete, the construction of the new concourse will begin. One of the first things we can see is the side of the tunnel we were just in, or the blue route, alongside many other entryways to previous connecting tunnels. You can also see multiple old escalators being dismantled. There's also a lot of other stuff the project needs to work around. This is a signal bunker for all of Union Station, which needs to fit within the future South Concourse space. At the same time, since work was going on under the edge of the train shed, this also had to be reinforced, shored up, and re-supported. This meant connecting the footings of the giant new glass atrium in, but also creating new steel crossbeams to hold up the floating parts of the historic Bush train shed. There's also this, and what is this? A truck tunnel. Indeed, because Union Station plays host to many restaurants and businesses, they often have to receive deliveries, and that happens via this truck tunnel that surfaces quite far to the south. Accommodating this tunnel was not simple, since it cannot be removed and it is very tall. The solution is actually to use a little bit of the excess vertical clearance that will be removed to make space for the future concourse. That all means that different parts of the concourse will have very different ceiling heights. There will also be a fair number of stairs within the space to allow for various points where people will be able to connect into the South Concourse, from the South Arcade to the Teamways to Scotiabank Arena and the south end of the Bay Concourse, all of which have different elevations that need to line up with the new South Concourse. So what's actually going to cap all of this off? Well, new platforms, of course. There will be 2 platforms built, but they will function as far more. The new southernmost platform is replacing a previous platformless runaround track, and seeing that it'll be very wide, given its location in the corridor, my guess is this will likely serve Lakeshore eastbound trains for points east. A wide platform will allow for more frequency, but hopefully also that constant assignment, so you know that this is the Lakeshore East platform for Oshawa. Another wide island platform is being built to the north, but thanks to cuts on both ends that will host stub tracks, which we will be seeing a lot more of at Union, it's mostly not super wide. Trying to not sound a bit crazy, the design of this platform reminds me a lot of one of those at Essen Hauptbahnhof in Germany, which of course is run by Deutsche Bahn. Given the relatively short length of these platforms and the presence of a VIA area in the South Concourse, I'd guess they will be used by VIA Rail, who tends to need less platform length for their rather short trains, for the corridor at least, but which does tend to have trains sitting at platforms for a while. Stubs wouldn't have worked with many VIA consists historically, but that issue is now moot, since VIA's newest train sets have an integrated cab car, allowing easy travel in either direction. And VIA these days seems to run 2 locos on a lot of their trains anyways. I should say that I confirmed, and all of the footings for these new platforms are being designed such that they can enable future level boarding. This is a feature at a lot of new and expanded GO stations, and it is awesome to see this at Union itself, so that eventually you can walk straight into a train without having to step up. All in all, it's cool to think that this portion of the station used to be a small number of passages, utility rooms, and, well, truck tunnels. Soon enough, it'll be filled up to the brim with station, with new waiting and circulation space, lots of vertical access to the new wide platforms, and additional connectivity. And to be clear, this isn't being built by punching through the existing space, but by doing a complete ground-up demolition and rebuild. All in all, it's pretty wild to see so much work still happening at Union, which seems to get significantly better with each passing year. The only thing I think I'm more excited for is the intense service that can come with this much improved infrastructure. Thanks for watching.